Right. Hello, my name is Kirsten Greenidge, and I'm from the United States. Um, I live in a town called, I just moved, so I live in a town called Westboro, Massachusetts, which is about 45 minutes from Boston. Um, I'm writing the Birth Project because I believe very strongly in women's health. And I have two children of my own, and I would say that their births were, my daughter's birth, what I thought was very traumatic, and I wish I was more informed about her birth and about my birth process when I had her. And uh, and when I had my son, I don't think I gave it as much thought as I should have. And I consider myself to be really on the more educated spectrum, and I began to think, uh, what would happen if I didn't have all the resources that I think that I have? How would that have affected their births and my health? And I don't even think I had all the answers that I should have had when I gave birth to them. And I happened to live in Harvard's backyard, and I thought, wow, if I don't have the answers, and I live in this very privileged community, what would it be like to live elsewhere in a more rural community where I don't have access to healthcare, or the resources that we have here? And so I was interested in those questions, and particularly when Emma described it to me, the history of birth. So those things spurred me on in the writing process. Uh, the main issue around health inequality in my country, in the United States, healthcare, access to healthcare, the price of healthcare, I think, and I think an unwillingness to embrace change. I think we in the United States like to think that we know best, and we like to think that we're a highly developed country, and in many ways we are. Um, but I don't think we always, I think we're often highly resistant to seeing that sometimes other places know what they're talking about, and we could learn a lot from other countries and other areas of the world, especially since we have an alarming maternal mortality ratio and an alarming infant mortality rate as well for a country that is developed, and that we do have resources here. And I would love to see that change. Have I found anything particularly interesting or surprising about the topic of birth through your research? I think that those initial statistics that at the beginning of the research were very, very surprising to me, and that spurred me to think why. And looking at a history of birth throughout the 20th century, and particularly tracking how maternal health was linked to access to health care throughout the 20th century, and to prosperity and to government programs was really interesting to me. And I just really, really enjoyed that part of the research. Do I think global health equality is possible? I'm an optimist, so I think it is possible. I do think it's possible. Do I have answers about how it could be achieved? I do not think I do. But the same way that I think that everybody in the world who is hungry can be fed, I think global health equality is possible. So I went to a Quaker school, and one of the most profound things that they ever did at this Quaker school was have this World Hunger Day, where everybody in the school, all the older grades, I think 3rd through 8th grade, participated. And they divided us into 3 groups, and they called it First World, Second World, Third World. And people in the Third World were given just this gruel, very, very thin liquid that was flavored with I think just onions and maybe pepper and maybe another spice. And then the next group, the second world kids were fed with rice and the gruel too. And then the first world kids were fed with they ordered in pizza and Coke and Coca-Cola, and that was a very, very small majority. And then we had a discussion about world hunger. And one, it was to show us what the majority of people in the world ate and what they had access to. And two, we had a discussion that there was the philosophy was that there is enough food to feed everybody. And also, what was key too is they ordered too much. I think they ordered too much pizza, so that the rest of us could see how much pizza was left over and how much went to waste. And that left a lasting impression on me, that there is enough to go around. And I think the same thing is true with healthcare, that there is a way for everyone in this world to be safe and to be healthy. And the same is true with mothers and babies. And I hope that through this project that we're able to spread that message. So, yeah, I'm Kirsten Greenidge. I live right outside of Boston. And thanks for listening.